We say to girls,
What is your podcast?
you can have ambition, but not too much.
Gonna be yapping and cackling away?
Naturally.
If I looked feminine, I would not be taken seriously.
I'm just a girl.
It's amazing how much you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it.
Hey, Amber, do you remember this book that came out back in, I don't know, maybe the late 90s, early 2000s called I Kissed Dating Goodbye?
Are you bringing this up because you know it will trigger me?
I think
do
everyone
remember.
is triggered at this point.
Yes, yeah. I do remember
Did you
that
ever
book.
read it?
I don't remember, but I do remember that title. It was popular in the church world.
Yeah, it was
Help me.
popular in purity culture circles.
Purity culture. Yes.
Yeah, I never read it. I read like the introduction to it. I was like, this is weird. Not for me. So I never finished it. I was in high school and I was like, I don't want to kiss dating goodbye. I'm like, I haven't even dated yet and I would like to date. So
For
I
that
just felt
reason,
like
Bekah
it wasn't
was
for
out.
me. For that reason,
Yeah.
I was out. I'm like, I'm not kissing this goodbye. How else am I supposed to find my man? And now 20 years later, we see how much good it's done me. Maybe if I had read the book then, it would have worked out better. But maybe
No,
not.
honestly,
Probably
I don't think so. But I do think the title's pretty catchy though. On that note, I'm Amber Haley. You are listening to our second season of Two Girls in the Market, and I am joined by my co-host,
Rebecca Daniels
yeah,
in Washington State. And Amber's over in Hawaii.
aloha, everybody. We're going to talk about something pretty different than the way we ended last season, at least, because I read this article that I was telling you about
Mm-hmm.
called The People Who Quit Dating.
It's kind of the opposite of what we did over our summer break. Or at least
Yes.
the opposite of what I did over my
Yes.
summer break.
We got on the apps together. If people listened to season 1, if you haven't, go back and listen. And for the finale, we made Hinge profiles and we jumped back into the world of dating. And I got to be honest with you, Becca, I think part of the reason this article caught my eye is because of the fatigue of our summer of dating.
Yes. Dating
Whereas, like-
fatigue is real.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, interesting. There's people who just quit dating. And
Like forever?
okay, so let's be clear about this because there's different ways you can quit dating, right? So like we both talked about before we went quote unquote back on the market for the podcast that we had both like taken periods of time away from dating for various
Yes.
reasons, right? Like
Mhm.
there's periods of your life where you just weren't actively dating. This is not referring to those kinds of people, okay? So this isn't like I'm deleting Hinge, I'm just going to focus on myself for the next few months and do me and like whatever. That's not what we're talking about. This article is specifically talking about groups of people now who have decided to intentionally quit dating as a lifestyle choice. Just they are coming to a point where they are deciding that is not something that they're going to pursue. And I'm going to tell you a little thought, like a thought exercise that the therapist who wrote this article gives people.
Okay, because
All
I
right.
have so many questions right now.
Okay. So
I-
this might help.
Okay.
If a lot of people are probably instantly pretty put off by that idea. But listen to the exercise.
I'm just
all right?
wondering my initial thoughts, and then we can get into the exercise. But my initial thoughts are like, are they choosing singleness for the rest of their lives? Are they going to go join a
Mhm.
monastery? What does this mean at quitting, intentionally quitting dating versus just taking a break or a season away from it? And also, is this like quiet quitting, which is what a lot of people were doing in their jobs? Probably
Right.
no relation at all. But it's interesting that so many people are quitting so many things these days.
Or a lot of buyers pulled out of the real estate market. You know, they got buyer
Yeah.
fatigue. And I do
True.
also know people who, on the flip side, they just have never jumped in and they have decided that investing in real estate is actually not the best decision for their life and they want to be forever renters because of the lifestyle that it gives them. And so there's different ways to look at things. But let's jump into this thought exercise. I think it'll give a little clarity. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking into this for myself currently.
Ooh.
Not to be like controversial, but this is something I'm seriously semi-considering. I want to hear your thoughts on that too. But
Okay.
basically,
So
there's this
season
therapist
3, I'm hearing, is going to be 2 girls off the market.
off the market, but
We
I
went
could
from
still be
in to on to off.
to off. Or you know what? Maybe we will not see eye to eye, and it will turn into one girl off the market, one girl on the market, another girl
Who
in the
knows?
market. Who knows?
Girls
I don't know.
of the market.
The girls of the market. We're all just girls of the market. In, on, around, off. Okay,
All the
so
prepositional phrases.
there's this therapist, and I want to credit her, who wrote this article. Her name is Karen Lewis. She's from Washington, D.C., and she is a therapist for a lot of very frustrated single people. So probably a therapist to people like me, you know,
Lobbyists,
basically.
politicians. It's Washington, D.C.
No,
Her
no,
work's
she's-
cut out for her.
She is a relationship therapist. So
Yeah,
those are the
but
people
just
she
imagine
sees.
trying to date
In
while being
Washington,
in
DC.
politics. I can see
Yeah.
why people would be frustrated.
I mean, any environment I can see. Yeah.
Honestly, at this
Okay.
rate.
So, Becca, imagine that you are looking into a crystal ball. All right? You know how people always want to know, like, what's the market gonna do? How's things gonna end up? And we're like, let's take out our crystal balls. And then we're always
If
like,
only.
we can't read. We don't have crystal. Okay, whatever. But
Yes.
in this scenario, we have a relationship crystal ball. Okay.
Okay.
We got one. Imagine
it.
you're looking into your crystal ball of the future and you see that you are going to find your dream partner. You will find your dream partner in, say, 10 years, but not before then.
Okay.
Okay. And this is a guarantee. Okay. So this is just a thought exercise. So if you knew from looking into this crystal ball, you're going to meet your dream partner in 10 years, but you will not before then. There's nothing you can do to change that. What would you do with that time free of needing to look for your dream partner and love? Because you're not going to meet them. We know that you're not going to meet them. You're going to meet them in 10 years. And you want to know what most people say? The sentiment she hears the most is, I'd finally be able to relax. I can do all the things that I've always been wanting to do and waiting to do.
Why were they waiting? Because my thought was like, oh, I just keep doing what I'm doing. I just keep living my life as I'm living it.
I would disagree, though, because you didn't spend the summer actively dating.
Aside from the active dating part of it, I wouldn't do that bit, but the rest of my life would just stay the same. I would keep doing all my same hobbies. I would keep spending time and investing in the friendships that I have. I would keep traveling. I would keep building my business. I would keep spending time with my family. I would keep doing what I've been doing.
Let's think about the cost of dating. And I'm not just talking about the financials, because that might be true. However, if we really think about it and think back to being 18 years old and on. So as an adult, the amount of energy, and that's what I'm talking about, the cost, either dating or crushes or looking for a partner. Think of the outfits you bought. Think of the nights you've spent crying. Think of how much swiping Becca did this summer. Okay?
Rude.
Not to call you out, but the amount of dates that you were going on, like that, I know it is a full-time job.
All right, so my life prior to our
Think of all the waxing and hair and nail appointments you probably would have skipped.
okay, so prior to April, then my life prior to April, that's what I would just keep doing, and it's because, yes, obviously, like in the grand scheme of things,
If we could actually quantify how much time and money that was, I bet we would be shocked by the big numbers that we saw.
yes, I'm sure we would be.
Think of the things we could have done instead. And there are people who are now recognizing that they would rather spend their emotional energy, money, their time, their drive, not actively looking for their partner. And they are not closing off to it, but they are not, they are accepting that it might never happen. Because for like 30% of at least the United States-ish, 30% of us are single and will probably die single. And that's like not very romantic. It's not what you hear about in the most movie plot lines, but that's the truth. I might be single for the rest of my life, and that's something I need to accept. What do I really want to be focusing my time on? There's a lot of energy I wish I hadn't to put into certain people, but what if I just could accept that fact that it might not happen for me and put that time, energy, emotion, everything into something else? Travel, could start another business. There's just so much.
Okay.
Is there anything you could think that you would want to do? And any way that you would feel different?
Right now, no. 5 years ago, I already started that process of coming to the acceptance that I may be single the rest of my life. So it's like I've already kind of been on that train and going through a grieving process in some ways of grieving, will I ever be a wife? Grieving, will I ever be a mother? That's the hard one.
That's hard.
The will I ever have kids? And even now, I'm 35. And so even now, I don't know. Even if I find the right perfect partner, I don't know that I'll ever be a mom just because the way our bodies work. That's just kind of how it is. So I've already been going through that grieving process, and I made that decision a long time ago that I wasn't going to keep putting my life on hold because I didn't travel. I didn't do a lot of these things because I was like, I want to do that with a partner. I want to do that with somebody special. And then I was like, I'm getting older. I want to do these things. I want to live my life. I just started living my life and I wasn't waiting on anybody or waiting on anything to happen. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, yes, obviously I've been swiping and I've been dating this summer. But before that, I wasn't saying I was intentionally not dating, but dating was not anywhere like at the forefront of my mind. I was very focused on other things. If a date came along, I would say yes to it if it made sense. If I felt like this is somebody I don't mind disturbing my peace for this time frame. But I didn't have any desire just to date for the sake of dating. And I've never had the desire. Like I was not intentional about it. But that's why I got back onto the apps this spring, summers. One, for the pod, but also I'm like, if I want to find a partner, I do need to be intentional about it. And I was like, all right, I think I've had enough of a break. I can start intentionally looking again. And it was immediately exhausting. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
If I stop looking, I'm not going to find it. But what if that's not true? And I'm not trying to be like, oh, when you stop looking, the person will come along. I just think, what if we really have that little control where it's, if I don't go on the apps, if I don't put myself in situations where I'm going to maybe meet people, maybe I will anyway. Maybe it really makes no difference. I don't know. It's one of those like weird things when you think about fate, serendipity and whatever. Like if we knew no action that we took or didn't take would affect whether we end up with a good partner at the end of our life or not. Would that change things?
I guess if you knew to make a difference.
Yeah. I guess we don't totally know, but
We
it
don't
is
really
interesting.
know. Yeah. It is an interesting thought. It's an interesting idea. I don't know what the answer is to that. I know people still meet each other in real life. People are still set up on dates. My hope was that I would meet somebody at church, but no single men walked into my church. So that didn't happen. But ideally, I would have preferred to meet somebody in real life.
Just like organically.
House. You could go drive around the city looking for all the open house signs, looking for all the for sale signs. And it's going to take you a while to get around the entire city to see everything that's listed for sale. Or you can go onto the app and you can scroll through and see, based off your criteria, all the houses that are available. And so it's just, instead of me driving around, I decided to go onto the app.
Yeah.
That's the difference if we're going to bring a real estate analogy into this.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that the reasons people would maybe decide to quit dating are different and nuanced to our particular lives. I love that we did that kind of experiment together where we got on the apps because I did need to force myself and try and be intentional about it. I've had a lot of lessons I needed to learn so that if I do find a good partner someday, it can be a healthy relationship. And the only way for me to learn those I do think was like crashing and burning in my dating life a little bit.
That's how we learn. You think you're over trauma, you think you're over things, and then you start dating and you're like, oh crap, I'm actually
Yeah.
not past this thing. Because it's like now
Yeah.
you're putting it into practice and it's getting tested.
Yeah. And I'm just in another like introspective like phase of life where maybe I do need like another dating break, or maybe I do want to just like kind of quit. And and part of it I think is like I'm ready to escape the rat race of it all, because
How long have you gone without dating? Like, what's the longest time frame you've gone?
like most of my adult life I have been in committed monogamous relationship.
Okay.
Um
So I guess a better question is, how long have you been, like, what is the longest time frame that you have been actively single, not dating anybody, not in a situationship, not in a relationship?
Probably as a fully formed adult brain post college, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
The last 3 years approximately, I have been single, not in a committed monogamous relationship.
But you were dating. So, like, how long of a time frame in that 3 years have you gone without going on a single date, not talking to anybody, not anything?
I'm just like not a good person to ask this because there's always something going on. But I'm not somebody who really dates a lot intentionally. So it's, I don't know, like it's hard to define.
Right.
Fine. Probably not much of it has there been nothing going on.
But
You
I
know.
think that's really interesting because I wonder if that's why you feel more fatigued, because you actually haven't had a true break from it. Because there's always been somebody that's
Yes.
there.
Yes. And the apps are a new thing for me, right? So for our experiment, I tried it. And then I tried Tinder for the summer just because I just wanted to have one other, at least just something to compare it to.
Mhm.
And I think part of it is the apps are just very draining. And I think probably most people who have been on them would agree. And if you've never been on them, congratulations.
You're winning in life.
I didn't experience modern dating until like late into my 30s.
It's the worst time. It is the
you're like-
worst time to date.
We're like, this is how we date now. You just match with them and then you just never get rid of them again. And then it's different, right? So modern dating, there's an element of it that's very off-putting. I live in a very remote place and the dating pool is really small. I don't think it's like lack of having a prosperity mindset. I think it's just facts. There's not a lot of people for me to date. And there's this whole element of like small town kind of vibes. So you have to be careful. There's a lot of recycling going around. Part of that just makes it unappealing. It makes it unappealing.
Recycling.
Yes. I think that's like a reason that people quit. I think the modern dating is off-putting. They're tired. It's been emotionally draining. And I think sometimes there's not a lot of options anyway.
Yeah.
And just to be like vulnerable, like I know you've heard me sometimes when I've been in those like lower moments where you're thinking things about yourself that you know aren't true, but your brain goes there where you're just like, gosh, there's nobody who can love me the way that I need. Am I unlovable? I remember one time I was texting you and you told me to go listen to our podcast episode on self-love. And that was like really needed in
We
that
talked
moment.
about
But it's
this.
just, why is it so hard for me? And I think it's hard for a lot of women who are similar to me, who are like, maybe you're like late 30s like I am, and you work a lot and it's important to you to be financially independent and you are outgoing and ambitious. Like your pool just really does narrow. And so a big part of that is I don't know if I'm going to meet somebody who's at my level, and I'm not going to settle. So I might just be accepting that there might not be anyone for me.
Or it's going to take longer to find that person.
We are constantly bombarded by ideas in our culture, this whole thing that we need to aspire our whole lives to. I would say there's definitely like a pressure element from people, and probably why I found this article so interesting is that I think it's a little bit of an off-putting topic to some people. You probably know from being a girl in the market alongside me for years, like when sometimes people find out maybe that we're not married, we don't have kids, we're not maybe like the stereotypical woman of our age, and people are like, oh, you'll find somebody, or oh, it's not too late for you to, and it's like, is that even the point?
One of my favorite moments at a real estate conference was it's LobbyCon, and this guy, he's asking me, are you married? And I said, no. And he's like, do you have kids? I'm like, no. Do you have a boyfriend or anybody? And he's like looking at my finger, which has no ring on it. I'm like, no, nobody loves me. Thank you. Is there any other questions that you have? Because he was just so flabbergasted that not married, I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have children. Because I guess if I had kids, that would explain why I didn't have a partner. But
That's a lot of the pressure that society puts on women. I mean,
yeah,
men have pressure too for those
mhm.
things too, but it's like they couldn't really fathom probably women our age quitting dating because what else is the point of our lives?
What else is the point of our lives? Yeah, we've been taught this from a very young age that it's like a romantic partnership is your fairy tale ending. That's the happy ending of every movie is that the guy gets the girl or the girl gets the guy and they lived happily ever after, at least until the credits roll.
Yeah, the Bridgerton, to tie in the Bridgerton of it all, Becca's coming out season that you had over the summer with all of your dating. I mean, it was literally a like familial obligation for people to find
Yeah.
a partner. So it's not surprising that these things shape all of our viewpoints on it.
Obligation for women, it was this is how you're going to be provided for the rest of your life because you can't be financially independent. You're not allowed to own property. You're not allowed to have a credit card. You're not allowed to do anything without your husband or father's permission. So you had to be married to have any sort of life. And if your family only had girls, you had to get married so that your mom and your sisters aren't out on the streets.
This is a big part of this conversation because the fact that women can, it wasn't until I think something shocking, and I might get the date wrong, but like 1983 or something like that, when women could take out a business loan without a man. Very recent. And a lot of these societal changes are very recent. So the fact that we have the option to quit dating, whether we're closing off to finding someone or not, is a very new concept, I think. And I think one
Yeah.
that people, I'm going to say, one that I think more people should explore.
Yeah. Your future does not hinge on having a partner anymore. You can have a future, you can have a full life as a single person. And I think that's a valid choice. I don't think people should feel an obligation to spend the rest of their lives with somebody and think that they're not going to have a fulfilled life. Because I think you certainly can, as just you. Marriage is not the end all be all, or lifelong partnership is not the end all be all.
I did a lot of inward reflecting as I was digesting the idea of this article because I have so many mixed feelings about it. And I do feel a little bit like this makes a lot of logical sense to me. This is something I should really consider. And so you touched on stuff in your life that you've had to grieve. Dating feels like a process of grieving a little bit.
It feels like you're giving up on that fairy tale ending.
The expectations that society put on us that told us it's the only way to be fulfilled, right? And that can be tough. That can be like a tough thing to grieve. And we've been taught, for so long that settling down with somebody is what success looks like in a relationship and in life as a woman. But stepping away from that could feel incredibly freeing for so many women in particular. Once you let go of that idea that you need to be in a relationship to be happy, you can see the whole world in a new light.
Yeah. Your happiness should not hinge on it.
And so what I'm focusing on is trying to build a fulfilling life for myself without romance, visualizing what that could look like on the amount of drain that dating has brought on my life versus the amount of gain.
Interesting. I think you choose your hard. Relationships are hard. Being single can be hard. For me, I feel like it's easy to be single. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I'm not having to manage anybody else's emotions. I don't have to check in with anybody. I get to just live my life however I want to live my life and do whatever I want. That also means that I'm alone a lot. And I really love being with people. That can be hard, not having constant companionship. But again, I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't have to answer to anybody. In a relationship, you have that constant companionship. You have that partnership. You have somebody to share the burden of life and all these other things. But depending on your partner, they could be a burden. At the same time, put somebody else first. You can't be selfish. And so that's hard. It's really hard to not be selfish and to put a partnership or put somebody else before yourself in a relationship. If I only wanted what was easy, I would just stay single. It is so peaceful in my singleness, and I don't have to worry about anybody or anything. I have really amazing friendships. I have really amazing family. I am very happy and content in my singleness. That is something that has taken me years to get to. I gave up that idea and I was like, can I be okay with never having a husband and knowing that the rest of my life I'm going to be single? Can I be okay with that? And so I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, if this is what God has chosen for me, is to be single the rest of my life, okay, I accept it. And I will find joy and contentment in that. But I'm also open to finding my husband. But recognizing that that's going to take a lot of work at the same time. It's not just, ooh, easy peasy, everything's going to be wonderful at this point forward. If I just wanted easy, I would stay single. But that's where I've come to in my journey of such long singleness. And who knows what my feelings and thoughts will be if I ever get married. I'm sure I'll have other ideas about things too. But I've never experienced marriage, so I can't speak to it all.
Yeah. For me, I have just been thinking a lot about, I think, the time energy of it and what I could do with that time. Because I'm a very outgoing and extroverted person like yourself. So loneliness does affect me. And I do like to be with people. I also am somebody who does live in my head a lot. I do a lot of overthinking. And dating energetically takes a lot. It just, like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The rumination.
I think women in general feel it more than men.
And also ADHD women, because we ruminate on things, the maladaptive daydreaming. So there are some extra things, like our brain is always going.
Yeah.
And when it's always going on these negative things, or it's looking for the dopamine from a certain type of experience or reaction from a person, then it causes us to seek out unhealthy interactions or unhealthy attachments. It's like we're more susceptible to it. And so you have to actively be aware of what's happening and stop those thoughts. But that's practice. It's an exercise. It's a muscle that you have to build up. And it's exhausting.
With that time, I could put that into some of the creative projects that I've been wanting to do, like podcasting more. With the money that I would have spent on dates, like, I could pour that into my home, into my business, into taking up a new hobby, into a savings account so that I have less stress and more security, like different things like that. And then I've been like getting myself excited about these ideas and also reminding myself, like, I had a really big reminder recently when I was going to go to dinner with somebody and I just didn't want to. I was going to go on a date and I didn't really want to. And I was going to make myself, because I don't want to die alone and I want to find my partner. So I figure I need to go out there and be intentional about it or whatever. And I was just like, gosh, you know what I want to do? I want to go to dinner with my girlfriend. That is what I want to do. That is what I would rather do tonight. And so, like, these are the things I'm thinking of. Think of all those bad dates you've been on. And while, yes, it does make for podcast gold stories for us to tell, I just think, like, how much better of a time would I have had if I was, like, at dinner with you, Becca, or my friends, and we were just having a great time rather than some of those horrific wasted first dates stuff. So I can see the appeal, and that's what I want to focus on. Also, we don't just get our relationships from people that we date. We have friends and family to fulfill that part of us too. So it's not like we have to say goodbye to going to all the social events just because we don't have somebody at home with us.
No, you have community, you have fellowship with other people. Like, life should not revolve around romantic relationships and romantic intentions. It is a bonus aspect to life. It shouldn't be the main thing. If you're married, then it's your main thing because it's like your other half. But dating is not the most important thing in the world and our lives.
Yeah.
We center it.
One of my favorite times of my life as an adult was when I lived with my cousin. We had such a good time, and we joked about our domestic partnership. We shared a Costco membership. We had somebody to like talk about our days at the end of the day and have dinner with. And that also does not have to be a romantic partner. We could all get a compound
Okay.
and just live with all our friends and cousins.
Have you seen, I think like Zillow knows that I am a single woman, and it has been sending me these ads, and I don't know if you've seen them, but it's these ads that are geared towards women. It's you have a woman who's, yeah, I always wanted to buy a house with my partner, but he didn't want to. And then I realized I don't have to wait for him. And so I bought a house myself. And then she's there like drinking coffee in the kitchen. And then this guy walks in. She's here, babe, here's your coffee. And then he gets his coffee, walks out, and she's like, that's my neighbor. And so it's like she found her new partner, her new dating match, her neighbor, and she bought a house. And then they have another one where it's these three gals decided to buy a house together and they're friends. And so I think it's really funny, one, that they're making these targeted ads towards our generation and our social station. But two, it is talking about how this is something that a lot of people are doing these days is you have more single women who are buying homes on their own. And then you also have more people who are buying homes or creating compounds or creating like these communes with their friends because they are prioritizing other types of relationships over a subpar romantic relationship.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, so we don't need them in the way that we needed them literally
Yeah.
before, not that long ago. But I will say,
Less than 100 years ago.
yeah, would I ever quit dating? I don't know that I necessarily would. I definitely have taken breaks. I'll probably take breaks again. I want to always make sure that I'm checking in and focusing on myself. But I do see why some people can make that a permanent lifestyle choice. And it is something that I'm going to think about for a while because the older I get, the more open-minded I get, realizing there's no one way to live your life. And it seems like the more I hear from women who are older than me, the more they talk about if they could go back and do things again, how much of that kind of stuff they wouldn't do. And the people who do quit, it sounds like a lot of them, there's a lot of things that they do not miss. I don't know, maybe we'll, for the finale this season, we'll do a
Two girls off the market. We'll see. Oh, I think this is a good one. This is a good one after our no regrets episode. Do you quit dating so that you don't have any regrets? Are there regrets you have about all the time and energy that you spent on dating? I would just say, whether it's dating or something else in your life that is stealing your joy or is causing you stress and you're not really getting a lot of positive out of it, deprioritize it. Stop making that the center of your life. That could be certain friendships. That could be other people's drama. That could be dating. It could be your job. It might be time to create a change, figure something else out, get a new friendship group, whatever it is. If there's something that's stealing your joy, it's not adding to your life, maybe it's time to quit.
Yeah. Okay, Becca, I'm going to ask you a question and you have to answer it. You cannot dance around this. Although we do not know the exact amount of time you spent on Hinge swiping. We unless Hinge, if you're listening, if you could look up that data and send it to me privately in an email, I'd be interested in that. But we don't know, but I will say it was a significant amount of time that we both spent. Okay, so if we say we took that time, we took any money spent preparing for dates specifically, and we took the time of going on dates all in, getting ready, driving, the whole thing.
I probably would have made more videos for social media, and then I would have met more clients. I probably would have sold more houses, honestly. And that's a true cost right there. You never know. That's why you have no regrets and you just do the things.
Do it for the pod.
For the pod.
Thanks so much for tuning in. This was a fun conversation. And don't forget to follow, like, subscribe to the pod.
We'll see y'all next time.